All right, what's going on? If you're using any kind of AI related content on your website and you're trying to rank in Google or the likes of ChatGPT, Claude, whatever it might be from an LLM perspective, this video is for you. Right, 2 days ago in Toronto, there was the Search Console Live, where basically Google presents snippets and bits of information about how they treat certain things, Google updates, Google algorithm updates, and everything like that. So if you are using AI related content on your site, this is for you. Cool, right, I'm going to go through this very simple presentation. It's only like 4 slides, so it's very, very quick. One of the first things that we saw on here was good SEO is good. Good SEO is good GEO, essentially, right? This comes back around to the whole thing of if you have this solid foundation of SEO on your site, meaning all of your pages are well optimized, the site architecture is well thought out and correct, you have all of the backlinks to power up your site and authority overall, and you have PR links, big publications linking to your website. Basically, that is the ultimate recipe. If you were to zoom out 1,000% from an SEO point of view, that is ultimately what helps in terms of generative engine optimization, GEO. Basically, how do you rank inside of the likes of ChatGPT? Okay, so if you have great fundamental SEO, you are naturally going to rank well or be cited more inside of LLMs overall. Right, on to the next one on here. So myth busting, right? No need to chunk content into pieces just for AI. Organize them and write them for a good human reading experience, right? You'll see the red thread throughout everything that Google says is the user experience, the human experience, how if this is providing value, okay? This is the biggest part throughout what they're talking about and what they have been talking about for many, many years at this point. Use headings H1 and H2 in ways that help human readers. Don't worry, it has to be super precise. Don't worry, it has to be super precise for AI. The web in general is not valid HTML, so Google search can rarely depend on semantic meaning behind the HTML hidden in the HTML specification. So basically format all the articles correctly and any kind of content that you have on your site. H1s, H2, like that is the tag in the back end inside of HTML. Okay, if you're using Shopify, you can literally just highlight a section of text and then obviously select H1 or H2. That's ultimately going to change the size of it, but it's also going to change the code in the back end. And really, that is like one of the main ways that a crawler can come in and quickly identify what the architecture of the page is about by understanding what is the single H1. God, we see that so many times where people have multiple H1s on a page. The single H1, you can have multiple H2s, H3s, H4s, etc. Okay, using AI to generate content, right? So generative AI can be useful when researching a topic and to add structure to original content, right? Excellent. So using AI in a workflow, thumbs up. Makes total sense. Why wouldn't you save time and have it be accurate? Okay. However, generative AI tools or other similar tools to generate many pages without adding value for users may violate Google's spam policy on scaled content abuse. Now, this is a fantastic point to bring up because I see a lot of Instagram ads around, hey, rank first on ChatGPT. And I'm like, oh, interesting. Let me find out more. And basically, it's a glorified ChatGPT content creation machine. And we'll be testing the top 3, supposedly, next week on the channel. And basically, I'm going to have my lead editor and writer, who's been with us for almost 10 years at this point, go through and grade all of the content, which is going to be super interesting. But essentially what they're doing is they're trying to find gaps, and they're essentially going, great, you should write articles on this, and all of this different stuff with a click of a button. So it might spin up a 700-word article and just like litter your site with a bunch of pages and content that doesn't really provide a whole lot of value. Okay, which is a really big part of exactly what we're talking about here. Now, basically, what happens when you publish an article or a new page on your website, Google will eventually crawl over that page. Now, one thing that you can look at inside of Google Search Console is you can look at discovered and not indexed. And basically, really, that is your real ROI on AI content. So if it's been discovered and Google has decided not to index it, it basically thinks this page is not of high value yet or at all, meaning it's not going to get into the index, which basically means if you're not inside of Google's index, when someone searches for something, your page physically cannot show up because it doesn't exist in their database. The database has decided, the algorithm has decided, I am not going to include this page. And if you think about that from an AI perspective, right? If you loaded up multiple ChatGPT windows and you asked it to create the same piece of content, actually, this is going to be a really interesting test. I'll do this next week. If you ask it to create the same piece of content with basically the same prompt, that's been published all over the internet, this is the best prompt to create articles. What do you think the outcome is going to be? Are people going to get a very similar outcome and article at the end of the day? Now, if that already exists on 20 different websites and you try and go publish number 21, Google's like, what the hell? This piece of content is exactly the same as everybody else's. Obviously, it's not going to be exactly the same. It's very similar to anybody else's. What extra value does this really provide? And that is such a big part of this. And that's really why our team, like we have a team of very experienced writers and editors. They also research the hell out of the topic before they even start writing. We look at the top 5 sites on Google that are ranking for that specific keyword. They're deep diving into each specific page and working out, okay, what is the word count overall? What is the average word count? What kind of headings are they using? How much text do they have? What is the frequency of certain keywords that they're including? How is the text structured? Is this a blog article? Is this a collection page? Is this a product page? Is this a home page? Is it just a landing page in general? So we're really working out at a very, very deep level what kind of content does Google already tell us it wants to see? What kind of article length, in terms of text length, does it also want us to abide by? We don't want to be the one that sticks out like a sore thumb on Google. We want to merge in and be the best. We want to have the best amount of information, right? And if you're not coming with original ideas that are really adding value, and as I said 5 or so minutes ago, that is really the red thread throughout this whole thing, is the value that you're providing. Why would Google put your crappy AI article that you've just spun up, in a couple of minutes, and why would it rank at number 1 on Google? Okay. The second part to this is the scaled content abuse. Now, this basically comes down to, let's say, for example, you've had your website for a year. You might have released 5 new products, and you might have done, 5 blogs in July, and then you kind of just left it and not really thought about it. Fine. Then all of a sudden, you're plugging in this AI content tool that's suggesting 50 or 100 articles, and you're just like, yeah, bam, 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 bam. Great, yeah, build everything for me and publish it. All of a sudden, right, we have a scaled content abuse, right? How, if you think about this from a value perspective, Google is thinking, is this providing value? If you've just spat out 50 articles onto a site, is that really providing a lot of value versus someone spending 6 to 8 hours really analyzing, is this the best possible piece of content, better than the top 5 have right now in Google? If so, great, we stand a chance of ranking up there. If it's not, then what the hell is even the point of ranking, of writing that content in the first place? Okay, so if you start to hit this spam policy, Google does not F around when it comes around to spam policies, especially around scaled content abuse. Really, this is the way that they can find out, are you literally just churning out articles? And if you get a penalization on your domain, right, it might be that it's page by page. If you get a full domain penalization, you can kiss goodbye to that domain name altogether. So if you are a brand and you are trying to build a brand and you want to exit that brand in the future, imagine Google essentially saying, hey, your domain name that you have right now is no good anymore. We will not show you for anything, even your brand name. Okay. And that is really the risk that you're taking with this. So as an agency with our own clients and our own e-commerce brands that we run, we do not take that risk. I am not interested in taking that risk whatsoever. We want to build the foundation that lasts for many, many, many years. Okay, so really, really, really big point around that. I want to just bring up another point around ChatGPT specifically. So if you think about it, ChatGPT is not going to cite your website for telling it what it already knows, right? Because otherwise, if you've used ChatGPT to create your content, or if you use Claude to create your content, or what have you, that is already in its knowledge base. It already knows that information. So why would it cite your site in the first place, right? We want to really give it a reason. We want to give all the reasons possible. And it comes back around to creating that content that adds value at the end of the day. It all comes back around to that. That's what all the algorithms are basically built around. Okay. And then the final page that we have on here as well, which was super, super interesting, is commodity versus non-commodity content. So the typical way of doing things you might say is like top 10 things to consider when buying running shoes. Yeah, a very commodity based article, right? Not a whole lot of information or factual data or statistics, right? Versus why this customer's shoe collapsed after 400 miles, a wear pattern analysis, right? So it's information that Google doesn't necessarily have to surface. It's very different to an existing article, and piece of content on the website. And especially from a ChatGPT perspective, this data and this information might not even be, it might not even know any of this. So what's the likelihood it's going to go to this article and cite it versus this? Okay, so a lot of things to really think about here. And really, that's why at DTC SEO Agency, we see every single piece of content as an asset. Every piece of content is an asset. And if you started to view your website in that way, every piece of content you're publishing is an asset to the website. That is an evergreen piece of content that can continue to bring in traffic month after month. And a really big part of this is in terms of like for e-commerce brands, which is specifically what we work on, is the collection pages and product pages. Collection pages are our absolute favorite because you can go after much larger, broader keywords that have a high search volume, and we can rank and outrank things like Walmart, Amazon, and then all the other more niche competitors, let's say Lowe's as an example, because you basically build out the authority around, the articles are covering the entirety of the niche that you are in. So Google is like, holy shit, these guys are the absolute expert. Same thing with ChatGPT. If your website is being cited a lot because you have that unique, well-researched content, big freaking win. That's how you win overall. Cool. So if this is interesting to you in terms of SEO and GEO and all that good stuff, reach out to us at dtcseoagency.com. As I said, my name is Thomas Phillips. I'm the co-founder of DTC SEO Agency. I've been doing SEO for over 20 years now at this point. I started my first online e-commerce store when I was 13. Sold to 39 different countries in the first year. 50% was from SEO, 50% was from a forum, and then essentially just scaled from there. We've exited 17 different brands that we've built in-house internally. And the reason why we built the agency is because we had so many people asking us to do SEO for them that eventually we were like, well, this makes total sense. We've exited out of our final brand. Why don't we just build an agency around this and use our existing team? And now we've since then started up other brands in other niches as well as, so we are actively building our own brands and we run an agency. That is one of the biggest differences between us versus other agencies. We've been doing this for 17 years prior to building an agency versus someone thinking, ooh, that looks like a good business model. Let's start that and use clients' cash to explore and try and understand the SEO landscape and now GEO as well. So if this is interesting to you, let's hop on a discovery call. We'll look at your site in detail. We'll run through a bunch of questions, see if we're a good fit. If so, we'll then build out our 1 year strategy. And then from there, we'll present everything over to you. Here's exactly the investment amount that needs to happen. This is all the links that we're going to build. This is all the pages we're going to build. Like, it takes us 6 to 8 hours just to build out that full-blown strategy. You'll have every single thing you need to know about SEO and GEO. And obviously, we hit the ground running because we have the whole plan built, ready to go. Cool. Hopefully, this has been helpful, and we'll go from there. Thank you.